At the end of the day, within the equalizing of the multiple different channels of your intellect and your physiological brain, one and the same thing, but also two different distinctive things, is what is a matter of, you know, lesser assumption and what is a matter of something that actually could be, how it could be, based on different clues and patterns of awareness, and seeing how you're proposing just an assumption of a plausible thing that is displaying and attributing certain characteristics within the collective psychological waveform of how people's mental societal tendencies and their level of chemical to egotistical mind tendencies is that which we have been grown with, a particular type of earthly societal engineering within the global region that we're growing up in, and how there's similarities and how there's like quote unquote clashings end quote of opposing viewpoints of how technology is used at its basis per the region, because every region on the planet more or less has a certain relationship with quote unquote AI end quote and human beings and higher beings of consciousness. They are the spiritual quote unquote AI in itself end quote. Multiple different programs being stored in an encasement of a conscious form that is, it could be but it doesn't have to be, a fleshly format and beyond. Synergy alchemy, the multiple different elements and expressions that are expressing themselves in a particular type of container conduit, being you or otherly wise, etc. And it multiple different energetic programs within its own inner energetic coding system hosting a certain container and form of the properties of how anything could function within its own sentient intelligence. Because in the end, the similarity between AI and humans and consciousness is they all have sentience intelligence, and one leans towards lesser organic density container fields, and the opposite of that, lesser density. And the first thing is more density, and the second thing is like the lesser density with more organic expressions of forms. So it's the expressions of the forms within the elements and the containers, and how the synergy alchemy meaning the interplay of different elements constituting itself within its own magnitudes and levels and ratios and degrees to ultimately build a new vessel for your top-down oversoul character that already is happening. And that's the subtle secret level that is underneath the AI expressions via its software, hardware, firmware, respectively, etc. And how it's always still expressing itself via the nature's software, nature's hardware, and nature's firmware. It has its own track record, and it has its own self-organic sentience of how it's doing the same thing, but just on a different channel and a different field of a format of elemental intelligence, conscious intelligence. It's expressing itself in lesser density, and the subtle interplay, quote unquote, warfare, end quote, is the energetic one between the lesser density and the more density of any object expression, and how those simultaneously are chaotic and harmonic and in order at the same time, because there's an order to it, and how they're fueling each other, the chaos and the order. And I have like 40 to 60 private videos on meta mindset that just hit balls out of the park, metaphorically speaking. So I got more memory. I deleted some videos for this. So it's not about getting lost in toxic speculation. It's not about getting lost in the ignorant speculation. It's not about getting lost in a detrimental, conformed, ignorant speculation. It has nothing to do with the ignorant speculation at all. But it could, based on what illusions you're following the cookie crumb trail to, based on the certain desires that are being elucified within how a desire being elusified leads down a certain cookie crumb trail, like Hey Arnold, where they leave the candy pieces in the cave. You know, that metaphor. So based on your desire being falsely portrayed, it's being elusified to lead towards a false narrative and a false program in amidst and in between the organic intelligence and the organic programming software and the artificial organic programming software. This is the hyperbalance of life itself. So it's just about something like that could be, you know. So we make assumptions based on, you know, the narratives that we're caught up in, and those narratives, they have illusions, because we have to ask ourselves like how are we even, like, you know, getting caught up in the confusion to begin with, and how would we equalize the confusion? So, like, you know, following, so it's like how we're, like, you know, out of harmony for some odd reason. We're falling, you know, we're falling like victim energetically neutrally, because we're ultimately, like, you know, feeding and being confused, and like going against our, you know, heavenly angelic instincts, to a place where we don't necessarily know what is happening. And the main point and the main context of this video is just by seeing, like, how we could stop the false assumptions, and how we make false assumptions based on the social engineering psychological energetic field that is being, you know, proliferated for just, you know, a certain, you know, how a certain consciousness has dwelled in a certain angle of consciousness, and that certain angle of consciousness has been, like, hosted within a certain level of density. Because, you know, this is me transcending the Vedic, pretty much. If you actually have I don't really expect anybody to, like, peep game or not, but, like, even, like, I was saying this, like, quality wise, like, 6 years ago, like, even the Vedas are going to get, like, you know, transmuted, respectively transformed, because there's that transformation element, there's that change element, but we're applying it to something bigger that we didn't necessarily understand or interpret or comprehend properly. Because I'm looking at the Vedic, you know, panorama and body of knowledge within just the energies of it, and seeing what is, like, you know, what is really relative to me and what isn't. And there is some relativity to it, because we're anchoring down within our balanced character, aside from the artificial character and the polarized nature character, because you can't be just all, like, you know, supreme nature boy or nature man in this, you know, artificially constructed reality, because it wouldn't fall into the energetic parameters of how you could relate for you to participate as a material being within the construct of, you know, what this matrix is, you know. And this matrix it's a material surface level exploration experiment on how consciousness has been limited for better and for worse, and why we even, you know, exploring, like, how this even, like, got to be. But let me not to jump around. The main point of this video was to actually just say, like, the main point of this video was just to say, like, how something could be or could not be. Why are we assuming the way we assume? I'm assuming the way I assume because based on the psychological, you know, evidence of how, you know, a certain demographical mentality via the US and around the US, you know, just as it is, not judging it either, just seeing for what it is. It's like collectively, like, we're all like, it just seems like we're not being shown the higher option. It just seems like the better option is absent. And if you can't see behind that facade, then maybe you're not ready, because we're just, like, we're only ready for what we could energetically handle, you know. We're only, like, we only, like, have what we could, like, really, like, you know, energetically be in harmony with, more or less, or that's a test in itself. But the main purpose of this video is, like, you know, it's like, could a certain like corporation, a big data corporation, could they be immature, and why would they be immature? Because maybe they don't know, maybe they don't know, like, how things are coming about, how things should be used. And there was one more point, like, and who's even like, and what force of like intelligence and consciousness is even introducing it into the reality. So the first point is, it's like, what's bringing the constructive change in the reality and maintaining that on the material level? What's bringing and maintaining the constructive spirituality on the spiritual level? And what do we, like, as we're like knowingly to unknowingly using both of those, like, how are we like using it, or what are we doing with it? So it's like we don't even know what we're doing it for. That's why there's like this like fine line of like immaturity. Like, we're just regurgitating something, and we don't even know what to really do to optimize the wisdom and the insight and the talents that we have. We don't even know what to do with it. So that's the collective immaturity right there. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know how it's being introduced in the reality, and we don't know how it's being preserved. So it's like, could these big data corporations on this new introduced energetic macro level, is there collective maturity or not? And to see if there's collective maturity or not is just the questions that I just asked. The questions that I just asked is like, after upon reflecting and contemplating within, your neutral solitude, because the solitude is needed to ground and anchor what to understand and comprehend what's actually being said. And like I said, there's always more points to really ground down. you know we could either turn on and snap on and light on the insight within ourselves, how things are going, like how are things happening the way they're happening, and why are things the way they're happening, and how it's all already being done, what's already all being done. That's always happening regardless of the fact if we know it or not. So as we're growing through year by year by year by year, as we're growing through the stages of ourselves, simultaneously, based on the influence of the environment and our collective tribes that we're growing through karmically and ancestrally, based on whatever family you have, that whole energetic support, whether it's constructive or deconstructive, that's your environmental influence, and that's like your grounded societal ego characteristic influence. We're being influenced by our nearby objects, subjects, and concepts in our nearby environment. And what that's exactly doing is seeing like, is that really like helping us through the stages of our lives? But like, because like every month, and all those months within 1 year, there's similarities as the years pass by. So all the years are kind of like rings. Each year is kind of like a ring, and within each 1 year being a ring, a time ring of your life energetically already happening, is we're growing through the stages, and we're having our own ratio of unknowingness and unknowingness, and we're growing within the intellectual insight, constructively or not, based on as each year passes by. Because as each year passes by, every month has an element of what it's really doing. Like Leo season, the Virgo season, school is resetting. So at the end of Leo season, and as things are shifted within the material outlay coding system program of the astronomy being interlinked between the code, we just don't necessarily know it, because there's satellites in certain parts of the sky that are dictating certain seasons that we're participating in and partaking in, via how Virgo season is matched with the resetting of going back to school. So as that material, orbit is more or less kind of in tandem with a slightly shifted lesser material orbit, and it's an energy orbit of, you know, the sun and the earth being its own energetic spaceship going through the rings of the constellations. There's different contexts of the orbits of how, you know, there's a yang and a yin to it, and as we're going through the yin and the yang of it would be is like what's actually materially expressed and solidified. Yin is how there's a different formation shape of how we're going back to something more energetic and less spiritual. The house system, and what relates to the house system is it's a lighter note of, you know, the astronomical material manifestations in the constellations with themselves. It's a place of energy, it's an energetic location, it's an energetic place. And what the energetic location and place is meaning is we're adapting within the satellites and the constellations within a relative material space environment based on that code, because at the end of Leo season going into Virgo season, for a new moon to be in Leo season, but it's on the cusp going into Virgo season, that means based on Mercury's code, we're concluding the end of of a school year. And within the end of the school year, on an unknown to known level, the Leo season is telling us we should have conclusive knowledge and insight, but we don't have to know it, but we kind of know it because we're growing through the years and the years of the years. Because at the end of Leo season, going into Virgo season, for it to cusp at this particular time what it is right now, we should be conclusive to so how we want to act and pursue our own self-character, how we want to act and pursue our own self-development, how we want to act and pursue our own self-stage, how we want to act and pursue our own self-talents. We should already, like, we're already being prepared for that. That's the conclusion of Leo season, and it's a new moon in Leo at the cusp. So I'm trying to intuitively break down, like, how we could have a new moon in Leo and the latter is the Virgo, because the cuspiness, there's a stationary and non-stationary orbits of the yin and yang of the constellations, and it's one's leaning towards the material astronomical materializations of what we're in, and the lesser materializations, which is a spiritual format, and how there's been a ghost imprint of the imprints of, you know, how the planets have their own dream bodies, and the planets being their own dream bodies, it's more yin. So we're more or less participating with that in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension respectively. And this third, second, and first dimension is us focusing on the anchored materialization, external physical reality of it, and us imprinting that with the different fixed faculties of what and how that actually, you know, gets detailed and accounted for. So like the astronomy slash astrology, if you read between the lines, they're the same thing. Astronomy and astrology are the same things. It's just different expressions. Astrology is more yin. It's more like in between the yin, and astronomy is more the yang, the physical knowledge of the astrology, and this, and then beyond the astrology is like, you know, seeing how they work in tandem, and that's more yin and yang in a higher octave together. So Leo season going into Virgo season, we're ultimately like daytime Mercury Virgo. We're resetting our character, and astrology could be simultaneously quote unquote demonic and non-demonic, but that doesn't matter because it's a different higher octave non-duality. Because in the end, did we choose to participate in the external material reality on a deep soul contract level based on for our paradoxical soul growth? You have to ask yourself that, because some people could say astrology is demonic, not necessarily, but I could see how it could be used that way. But like what I'm saying is like, we're going to use the astronomy, same thing if you read between the lines, for how we navigate the material matrix. And how we navigate the material matrix is Leo season to Virgo season, we're transitioning on how our character is growing for us to fucking navigate through the material reality of money. Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus, earth element. Virgo, we're changing through, you know, we're getting ready for the change of the earth. Virgo season, and we're new moon. We should know what to act on for ourselves in the new reality. Thank you.